All right, so today we're diving into prompt engineering. This whole thing where developers are using AI to like get way more productive. Hey, it's kind of like having this superpowered coding assistant, right? But instead of just, grabbing coffee, it's actually like writing code for you. We got this awesome article from Devhooks. It's called How Prompt Engineering is Revolutionizing Developer Productivity. Basically, we're going to like unpack all this stuff about how, if you can craft the right inputs for these AI models like GPT-4, it can seriously change the game for coders.
Yeah, for sure. It's really all about like understanding how to talk to these AI models. It's not magic or anything. It's really more about strategy, you know? And we're going to get into how to unlock the potential of AI for all this stuff, like generating some really complex code or solving some really tricky technical problems just by like crafting the right prompts.
So it's not just about being like, hey, AI, write me an app. It's about being way more specific,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Think about it like this. You wouldn't just tell a chef, make me dinner, right? You would tell them like what kind of food you want, what ingredients you like, maybe even give them like a recipe, as like an example to work from. Prompt engineering is kind of similar. The clearer your instructions are, the better the outcome you're going to get.
Okay, that makes total sense. So instead of saying, write me an app, I might be like, write me a Python function to connect to a MySQL database with error handling.
And just like that, boom, you've got functional code ready to plug right into your project. And that's just like one tiny example of how prompt engineering can really boost your productivity. The article actually goes into 5 main benefits.
Five. Okay, let's hear them. What else can this thing do?
Well, we just touched on automating code generation, right? But think about like debugging. It can be a total nightmare. But instead of spending hours and hours staring at your screen, you can actually use AI to analyze your code, and it'll point you in the right direction. You can feed it the error message, a description of what the problem is, or even like just a chunk of the code. And it can often like pinpoint the exact line that's causing the issue.
So it's not even just about finding the bug. It's about understanding why the bug is there.
Right. AI can actually analyze patterns in your code and then compare it to millions of other examples to suggest solutions and even explain like the underlying logic of why the bug is happening.
That's incredible. I can totally see how that would be a huge time saver. What's next on the list?
How about generating documentation? Every developer's least favorite task. So instead of like manually writing out explanations for all your code, you can actually ask the AI to do it for you.
So you're saying I could literally just like feed it a Python class
Yeah,
and say, write documentation for this. And it would spit out these like clear explanations of what everything does.
precisely. It can analyze the code, understand its functionality, and even create like these user-friendly explanations, saving you hours and hours of like tedious work.
Okay, this is getting seriously impressive.
Yeah.
What other productivity boosts are we talking about?
Imagine AI as like your first line of defense in code reviews. So it can analyze your code for common errors, potential security vulnerabilities, even flag inefficient code before it even gets to like a human.
So it's like having this extra set of super experienced eyes just like scanning your work.
Yeah, it's like having a whole team of senior developers checking your code, looking for like potential problems, which means that code reviews become way more efficient. They can focus on the important stuff and catch more errors before they actually like hit production.
Now I'm really starting to see why this whole prompt engineering thing is causing such a stir. What's the fifth benefit that the article highlights?
This one might be like the most exciting. Imagine needing to learn like a new framework or a programming language. You need to do it quickly. Instead of like wading through tons of documentation and tutorials, you can use prompt engineering to ask very targeted questions and get really specific answers, complete with like code examples. It's like having a personalized coding tutor available 24/7.
That is a game changer. For anyone who's ever felt overwhelmed trying to learn something new in coding, it's like prompt engineering can almost like make you a faster learner.
Yeah, that's the potential here. You can cut through all the noise
Yeah.
and get straight to the information you need. Start building stuff. It's a really efficient way to learn and experiment.
So we've established that prompt engineering is incredibly powerful, and it can seriously level up your coding game. But I'm kind of curious, how do you actually do it? Like, what are the secrets to crafting these magical prompts?
Well, it's not magic, but it does take a little finesse. But thankfully, the article we're looking at gives some really great tips from like seasoned prompt engineers.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's unlock the secrets of effective prompting.
Well, the first tip is all about clarity, being really specific. The more precise your instructions are, the better the AI is going to understand what you want. So let's say you want to create like a login form in React. If you have a vague prompt like create a login form, it might give you something super generic. But if you say like create a React login form with email and password fields and include client-side validation using regular expressions, you're giving the AI a way clearer picture of what you actually need.
So it's like writing a good user story, right? Like the more detail you provide, the better the outcome. Are there other ways to make prompts even better?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The next tip is all about providing context. Think about it like this. If you asked a human developer to write some code, they'd probably want to know what project it's for, what existing code it needs to like interact with, and maybe even see some examples of similar code, right? AI is no different, giving it snippets of your existing code, or even just like describing the project and its goals, that can drastically improve the quality of what it gives you back.
So instead of treating the AI like a standalone code generator, I should think of it more like a collaborative partner. Like, hey, I'm working on this project, and here's what I've already built. Can you help me add this specific functionality?
Exactly. It's all about leveraging the AI's ability to understand patterns and context to really get the most out of it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What other tips does the article offer?
Well, don't be afraid to iterate, refine your prompts. If that first output you get isn't perfect, don't give up. Just tweak your wording, experiment with different phrasing, or try giving the AI more examples. It's often a process of like back and forth to get the best results.
So just like with any coding task, persistence and like willingness to experiment are key. It's about finding the right approach to communicate your needs to the AI.
Exactly. It's all about like refining your prompts until the AI really understands what you're asking for. And this kind of leads us to the last tip. Don't just like blindly accept the AI's output. Take the time to understand why it generated the code it did. Ask it to like explain its reasoning, break down the logic, or even like suggest alternative approaches.
I like that. It's not just about getting the answer, it's about learning from the process. It seems like this approach could actually help you become a better developer. By kind of forcing you to think critically about the code, it's almost like having a senior developer looking over your shoulder, explaining things along the way.
Yeah, precisely. By like digging deeper into the AI's process, you'll not only get a better understanding of the code it generates, but also you might uncover new techniques and approaches that you can apply to your own coding. It's a really powerful way to learn and grow as a developer.
This all sounds so promising. I'm getting really excited about the potential of prompt engineering. But what about the future? Like, where do you see this technology going?
Ooh, that's where things get really interesting as these AI models continue to evolve and become even more sophisticated. I think we're really just scratching the surface of what's possible with prompt engineering. I think we'll probably see a wave of new development tools that have these AI capabilities like deeply integrated. So they'll go beyond just code generation and actually offer intelligent assistance throughout the entire development lifecycle.
So you're saying more than just an assistant, it could become like a true partner in the development process. Can you give us like any specific examples of what that might look like?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Imagine like an IDE that can actually anticipate your next line of code based on what you've done before and like the context of your project. Or a tool that automatically generates unit tests for your code based on the prompts you give it to make sure that your code is like robust and error-free right from the
Yeah.
start.
That would be a total game changer. No more spending hours writing boilerplate code or those tedious tests. It would free up developers to focus on the creative and innovative aspects of software development. What other possibilities do you see on the horizon?
Well, I think we'll also see more specialized AI models trained on specific code bases,
Huh.
or even individual developers' coding styles. So these AI models could offer like hyper-personalized assistance, generating code that perfectly aligns with your team's best practices and your personal preferences. It's like having an AI extension of yourself, writing code exactly the way you would.
Whoa, that's incredible. It feels like we're on the verge of a paradigm shift in how software is developed.
Mm.
But as exciting as all this sounds, there must be some potential downsides or challenges that come with this level of AI integration.
Huh.
What are your thoughts on that?
You're right. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like with any powerful technology, there are some potential risks and challenges that we need to think about carefully.
Like what?
Yeah.
What kind of issues should developers be aware of as they start to integrate AI into their workflows?
Well, one key challenge is ensuring the reliability and security of AI-generated code. While these models are becoming super sophisticated, they're not infallible. It's super important for developers to thoroughly review and test any code that's generated by AI before they deploy it, just like they would with human-written code.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of like having an intern or a junior developer on your team. You wouldn't just blindly trust their code without a proper review. You need to make sure it meets the standards and security requirements of your project. Are there other concerns we should keep in mind?
Another important thing to think about is the potential for bias in AI models. These models are trained on these massive data sets of code, and if those data sets contain biases, the AI might accidentally perpetuate those biases in the code it generates.
Oh, that's a really critical point. We need to make sure that the AI tools we use are built on diverse and inclusive data sets to avoid perpetuating harmful biases in the software we create. It's not just about the efficiency of the code, but also about the ethical implications that the technology we're using.
Absolutely. It's crucial for developers and organizations to be aware of these potential biases and take steps to mitigate them. This might involve carefully curating training data, using techniques to debias models, and always critically evaluating the output of these AI systems.
It seems like prompt engineering isn't just a technical skill then. It also requires a certain level of ethical awareness and responsibility.
You got it. As we become more reliant on AI in software development, it's really important for developers to consider not just the how, but also the why and the potential impact of their work. We need to make sure we're using these powerful tools to build a better and more inclusive future, not just writing code faster.
That's a powerful message. It seems like prompt engineering is about so much more than just boosting productivity. It's about shaping the future of software development in a responsible and ethical way. This has been a really insightful discussion so far. I'm already starting to rethink how I approach coding and learning.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I think we're just beginning to understand the transformative potential of AI in software development. And prompt engineering is definitely at the forefront of this revolution.
I'm excited to see where this technology takes us in the years to come. But before we get too carried away with future predictions, let's take a step back and recap what we've learned so far about prompt engineering. Okay, so we started by kind of defining what prompt engineering is all about.
Right. It's like the art of, crafting these really precise instructions to tell AI models like GPT-4 what to do, to perform specific tasks.
Yeah, and we saw how it's like totally revolutionizing developer productivity in like 5 key ways.
Yeah, like automating code generation, speeding up debugging, generating documentation, improving code reviews, and then making it way easier to learn and develop new skills.
Right, and then we talked about some expert tips for like how to write really good prompts.
Yeah, remember, clarity is key. The more specific and well-defined your prompt is, the better the AI is going to understand you and the better results you'll get.
Exactly. We talked about providing context, experimenting with different phrasing, and most importantly, understanding the why behind the AI's responses.
Right. It's not just about getting the code. It's about understanding the logic and learning from the whole process.
Absolutely. And we even took a peek into the future a bit, imagining these AI-powered tools that can anticipate what we need and basically become true partners in the development process.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to think about. It's a really exciting time to be a developer with AI opening up all these possibilities.
For sure. But, as we embrace these advancements, we got to remember to think about the ethical side of things too.
Yeah, for sure. We need to be mindful of potential biases in these AI models and make sure that we're using these tools responsibly.
Totally. It's not just about writing clever prompts. It's about using our powers for good and creating a better future with AI.
Couldn't agree more. Prompt engineering is a powerful tool. But like any tool, it's up to us to use it wisely.
This whole deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me. It's amazing to see how AI is transforming the world. Not just in software development, but everywhere.
Yeah, it's been awesome exploring this topic with you.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought to kind of ponder.
Go for it.
Okay, so as we become more adept at communicating with AI, are we also maybe learning to communicate better with each other? Is there a connection between the clarity and precision we need for prompt engineering and the way we interact with other humans?
Whoa, that's a really interesting question. Maybe as we learn to articulate our needs and intentions more clearly to machines, we might find ourselves communicating better with each other, too.
It's definitely something to think about as we continue to explore AI and its impact on our lives.
Totally. The journey of discovery and learning never really ends.
Well, that's a wrap on our deep dive into the world of prompt engineering.
We covered a lot of ground, but hopefully this has sparked your curiosity. and inspired you to learn even more about this exciting field.
Yeah, if you're a developer listening, I encourage you to start experimenting with prompt engineering today and see how it can change the way you work.
And even if you're not a coder, the principles of effective communication and collaboration we talked about are valuable no matter what you do.
So keep learning, keep exploring, and keep asking the right questions.
The future is full of possibilities. And with AI by our side, who knows what we can achieve?
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious and keep innovating.